Welcome back to the series, and I appreciate you returning. Today we have asked some really special friends and colleagues to help us not only introduce this video, but also have a really meaningful conversation afterwards. Um, so I'm just going to turn them over to them.
Hi everyone, my name is Chaz Cantor, and I have worked in crisis services for the past 13 years, and I have been a friend of Pam and Robert's here at Natural Freedom Wellness Center for the past 13 years as well.
And I am Corey Scott. I am a longtime friend of Natural Freedom Wellness Center and have been working in behavioral health for about 8 years.
Today we kind of wanted to talk to you about the video that you're about to see. Sometimes when we're watching these videos, we want you to know that if you are sensitive to certain topics, such as suicide, we want to kind of issue a trigger warning. That way you can take care of yourself as the film goes on. We do want to say that May is Mental Health Month, and it's really important to look at data from 2023 where 49,000 individuals died by suicide. That's one death every 11 minutes. And if you hang around after the video with us, we're going to discuss some really important resources that you can utilize if you feel like you are struggling or that you can help a friend with. So please stick around and watch for those at the end of this video.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you for joining us. We have two wonderful guests today. I'm super excited. We have Connie and Chris. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Connie Davis. When I came out here in 2008, 2009, sorry, I would have been Connie Cornwell. I had recently lost a husband and had previously lost a son. And I don't know if it was fate or whatever, but I had seen an article in the Athens Messenger of all places about equine assisted therapy. So I was intrigued because I knew I'd always been comfortable around horses and I always felt happy in the presence of a horse. This is based on childhood camp memories and just driving by pastures of horses and thinking, oh, look at them. So I wanted to do this, and after my son died, my late husband was like, that sounds expensive, whatever. And so I was pretty much told that would be a waste of my time. After my husband died, I found natural freedom, and it was definitely not a waste of my time. And at that time, Pam was doing equine assisted learning because she didn't have a therapist on staff. There's been so many changes. This is the first time I've been out here for, probably 15 years. Probably 15 years. And so it's such a beautiful facility now. It wasn't bad then by any means, but it was much more of a home-based, beautiful space and loving horses. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with the horses and work with Pam with the understanding that I wasn't going to get on their backs. It wasn't a ride. It wasn't a ride. It was just to get in touch with myself. And I don't think I really had much confidence in myself at all until I worked with the horses. And I worked with Cheyenne particularly, who's still here today, and I got to see him.
So how did you first hear about Natural Freedom?
So Pam and Robert and I actually met at a retreat the previous fall, so in 2008, late 2008. And it was just a connection that we made, and I could tell that they were very deeply committed to spirituality, to health, to healing, to growth. And those were things that I was interested in. So we made plans.
We did.
It worked out pretty well.
It did. I'm glad it did. Do you remember the first day you came out?
I do. We had arranged to meet on early afternoon in the spring. And it could very well have been April, I'm not sure, but it was pretty early in the spring. And there was a pretty big storm that I drove partly through. And then when I get, I think it was less than 2 miles away from here, there was a tree across the road. Great big tree. So I pulled over. Luckily, I had a cell phone and called Pam and said, I can't get there. There's a tree down. And Pam asked me, well, where are you? I'm like, I don't know. I've never been on this road before. So she said, have you passed the railroad tracks yet? And I'm like, yeah, I just passed railroad tracks. She says, okay, I know where you are. Robert comes down within 5 to 10 minutes and has a chainsaw and he's sawing down this tree and made clear passage for me to get here. I still have a piece of the burl from that oak tree that had fallen across the road. And I actually hung my wedding necklace on it when I married Chris Davis here to become a Davis. And it's just part of my many memories of some of the challenges in life and some of the good things that have come from it.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a very heartfelt, heartwarming story there. Speaking of stories, horses came to you in a unique way before even Natural Freedom, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to share that or not?
Oh, I'm glad to share it. I wish I was an artist so that I could show you what my mind sees. My eldest son, Arthur, committed suicide back in 2008 in May. And part of his suicide note was, I know you will recover. And needless to say, that was a very challenging time in my life. Unfortunately, my late husband said I was the only one who could help him. That is not true. Professional help is really, really well advised. But as I was tamping down my own grief and helping my husband get through his grief as best I could, one day I finally said, I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you just wallow deeper and deeper and deeper. And the next day I found him dead in our basement. So thinking about how was I ever going to stay? We had moved there just a few months before. How am I ever going to stay here on these 55 acres? I'd never even ran a mower before. Mm-hmm. So how am I going to stay here on these 55 acres alone? And I was basically praying to God, how am I going to do this? And up in the sky, I see this little letter, lowercase r. My arithmetic hands don't do it justice. So there's this little lowercase r in the sky. And the back part of the R became an ear. And this part became a face with a nostril and an eye. And clear as day, there was a horse head in front of me. And I knew right then that I'd always been happier around horses and I'd always wanted to be with horses. And everywhere I'd ever lived in Athens County or anywhere else, I'd asked my late husband if we could have a horse. And he always said no. So I lost my naysayer and I decided to make myself happy. Because that's the meaning of life. Making yourself happy. Finding that inner peace.
Thank you. I know it's hard to share. I do appreciate you sharing that.
And you painted a beautiful picture of the horse and the sky.
Right.
Believe me, yes, very much so.
I think an artist can listen to that and create something. So, do you remember some of the activities you mentioned Cheyenne. You worked with Cheyenne. So when you came out here, maybe can you share some stories of some activities and or things that you did with him that helped you kind of find your strength?
Well, I think the initial teachings that you had, the initial information, the very first time out was about how horses react, and they're herd animals and they react to whatever's going on around them. And it's almost as if walking around an arena with a horse in the arena that's not necessarily with you, if you can get yourself centered and figure out that you're here and here now, they come right up to you and they'll nudge you where they'll just kind of, you can feel the bubble around them and feel their presence, and it's just really, really amazing. But if you're not in the moment, they're gonna let you know that too. I remember grooming one day, and I wasn't in the moment, and he stepped on my foot and said, "Be here now." So it really gave me a lot of permission to be who I was, just by walking with them, by appreciating their interactions with one another in a herd setting. Just hearing that sound, that's my stress reliever now to this day.
Is it? Nice.
Flap those little lips, it feels really good. But yeah, if you can be in a ring and feel okay with an animal that's, 4 times your size, and stay calm, then you can do anything. You can do anything. And they'll teach you that. I remember one time getting an image, a flash from one of the horses that they'd been beaten with a halter, not one of your horses. But just that image, to be able to see the trauma of the horse and react to the trauma of the horse and promise that horse that would never happen from my hands. Just different things about horses. Looking in their eye, that beautiful liquid eye. There's nothing else like it. You feel like you just swim right in, and just be there. It's awesome.
So, I can't remember how long you were coming out. We were talking earlier, and maybe a year?
A little less than a year, I think.
And then you made a big jump.
I made a big jump. So in realizing that I was going to stay on these 55 acres, I learned how to mow. I also decided I needed a purpose to get up every day. And I decided to get a horse. And Pam helped me with that after she determined that I was not crazy. It was going to be winter, and I needed to have something to do. So November's the hard month for me to get through. By October, I had horses on the property with a lot of help from Pam, and my life has never been the same since. It's been blessed in so many ways, so many ways.
You want to tell us a little bit about your horse? Maybe horses?
Horses. So I had a horse that's name was Bliss after he got renamed, because his name when he came to me was Big. And I can't call a horse Big, I'm sorry. So Bliss and his partner Jet, because you have to have 2 horses. They get lonely when they're out there by themselves. And they had about a 10-acre pasture and a running shed, and they were just happy to retire. Bliss ended up, when I saw his papers, he was born on my birthday, so that was pretty special.
Oh, that is.
It's pretty special. And he was a character. We had a big Great Pyrenees mixed dog that when we'd walk in the pasture, he was free and loose with us, and he would be trotting along. Bliss would come up and sniff him in the ass, and the dog would just go beep. He was a character. But just having that, you have to be up by dawn. You gotta feed them, you gotta water them, you gotta do this every day. It got me through November, December, January, February. It was one of the snowiest winters we'd had. But we made it happen, we made it work. There was lots of times when I'd have to take the hose off the house and take it into the basement so it would thaw, and drag it back out, drain it.
All those fun things.
I've done that just a couple months ago.
Yeah,
All those fun things. But the payoff was just huge. You could just, I think actually the very first time I laughed after Brian had died was when, it would have been the following summer, when Bliss came up and rubbed his face on my chest. Just like a sternal rub.
Mm.
And it was just like, you are a goof. And it just broke out of a whole big cauldron of sadness. it allowed me to move forward.
Yeah.
And that would have been, like I said, in the spring of 2010. This gentleman came knocking on my door in December of 2010.
And you had a chance to meet Bliss. Do you have any memories you want to share?
Here's the storyteller.
I had never been around big animals like that before. And Connie just coached me up. And I think a lot of it was stuff that you guys had taught her. And one of the main things was you have to be bigger than the horse. So he can sense if you're small on the inside. And if I have a struggle, it's that I think I'm 4 foot tall. I think I'm half my size. And sometimes that works emotionally and sometimes that doesn't. And he was the one that really made me confront that, because he's like, you're acting 4 foot tall, and he would push me around some. And I'm like, the horses are pushing me around, what do you do? They're so big. And she's like, you have to be bigger than the horse, and they'll feel that. Okay. And I remember the first time I tried it, I don't know how you do it, just do it. And you just think, okay. My stature may have changed some.
I call it grow to go.
Yeah, so I grew into my size, and the animal responded in this amazing way.
Yeah.
And I have a vivid imagination, so I'll say in a communicative way, where he was telling me, there you go. Now I can respect you. Now you're worthy to be my leader. Now you're worthy to be the boss. And so that, I didn't expect that in any way, shape, or form. I didn't know how to bond with horses. I was just retiring from teaching before I came to be around the horses. And I had a student who was a horse master. She was a winning rider. And she was like 2 points away from an A at the end of the year, her senior year. Is there anything I can do? And I'm like, well, yes, as a matter of fact. Would you write me a short essay on what, I've never been around horses. What do you do? And she said, really, can I do that? I'm like, really, you can do that. It would really help me. And this would help you a little. And I think she wrote 4 single-space type pages of information.
Nice.
About how, and it talked about how they were prey animals, some of the stuff that I've seen in your material. And so you have to think, they're going to, anything they perceive as a threat, they're going to be hyper aware of that. You have to become part of the herd. They really like treats, so you need to decide if they want an apple, a carrot, or a beer. She said, my horse wants a beer, so I always have to have my parents buy me beer so I can give it to my horse. That's what it wants.
I've not heard this part of the story.
Oh, you don't remember that part? Yeah, so that's how I knew.
Cheyenne does prefer Heineken.
Okay.
But I think you taught me then, when you're, Bliss like apples, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
And so to, put it in your hand the right way as opposed to doing the poke thing.
Yeah.
But just that simple gesture and letting the horse nuzzle into your hand. And,
It sounds like the two of you had had a good experiences with the horses together then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure did.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that the day we married, we walked out into the horse pasture, and there's this delightful picture of us in the pasture, and the 2 horses came to greet us as a pair,
And followed us.
and followed us.
Good
We were down in
memories.
the woods.
Yep. We camped in our own woods for our honeymoon.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
Are we cheapskates or
Perfect.
what?
No, you're really enjoying nature and yeah.
He was on one side of me and my big black dog was on the other side, outside the tent. It's pretty nice.
Oh my goodness. Do you have any questions or stories you want to?
No, I don't. It's actually been a blast to sit here and listen to this, and it's the little things that you point out, and I think that so many times we forget as people. That's even life. It's the little things that we got to look at.
Yeah.
Don't always get caught up in the whole picture. Let's be grateful for the little stuff.
The present moment, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
The present moment with sometimes we forget to appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the horses, like you've already mentioned, they're
Right back to this moment. This is the moment. This is what we got.
that is absolutely, yeah, they're very good at reminding us and practicing the present moment and the appreciation for it.
They also discern whether you're worthy of their attention. I used to use judge, and it's like, no, it's discernment. And it's a gift to be able to discern these things. You know, we have this term around judgment, how it's naughty and bad, and we shouldn't be so judgmental, but you need to be discerning enough to keep yourself safe. My younger son went through a mental health crisis 5 years ago. 5 years ago. And boy, that triggered a whole lot of mess in my brain.
I bet.
And within a year, I was developing the symptoms of Parkinson's. So I think the stress of that really kind of tipped me over the edge of going down the Parkinson's road. I was diagnosed in the end of 2023. So I'm in my 3rd year of living with the actual official diagnosis of Parkinson's. And I've had a lot of people, I actually almost made my doctor cry the other day because I said, you know, it's a difficult thing, but I have more friends. I know my purpose. I have much more gratitude for every little bit. It's like, you're going to make me cry. I'm like, go ahead and cry. Go
And
ahead.
eventually you'll get patience.
I will not let you get patience from having Parkinson's.
It is interesting how perceivably negative events or things in our life can then catapult into a sense of, you know, truly appreciating what you maybe didn't before because you took it for granted or you're always in a hurry and
You don't know what you got until it's gone. Yeah.
well, I'm glad they're agreeing with the gratitude and the
Yeah, you said you just lost a horse, and that you know, we've lost the 2 horses, and I'm not sure I was quite ready for that, and yet that taught me something profound as well. And the one, you know, I saw her literally lay down for the last time and not be able to get back up, and I'd heard about that. You know, you read about it, you hear about it, but until you're there, you know, and I helped the vet do the last injection, and my finger got poked, and I was bleeding, you know, as the horses, as I'm losing the horse there, and I wasn't able to run the tractor, but Connie had learned how to run a tractor in her alone time, so she was the one that brought the tractor out to dig the hole and get her worked into the hole, and you know, then cover the hole, and we have that hole with flowers, and the flowers are blooming right now.
Yep, the daffodils are blooming.
So watching that part, you know, there was the happy stuff, the fun stuff, the laughs, the slogging down in the middle of the winter, you know, to feed and make sure the water was not frozen and all that stuff too. And then the final passage was a teaching. And I remember Bliss died the year that there was so much ice on the ground, and he was losing weight. And I couldn't get. And he may have had something where a debilitating illness at the end of his life where he couldn't keep the weight on, and it was so cold. And I remember his very last day, he looked up at me and said, I can't get up there. Can you bring the food down to me? And so I brought the food down to the run-in shed.
The run-in shed is quite a bit below the.
And then the next day, it's like, it was time to feed, or maybe that day. It was night just.
It was the evening feeding that same day.
And can't find Bliss, where is he? And Connie said, you can't go looking for him. I think it was below 0 that day.
It was below 0, we had that 2 inches of ice on top of a foot of snow, or half a foot of snow.
And I went everywhere I thought I knew he would be. I spent probably an hour or 2 out in that weather, and came in to warm up, and she said, you can't go out again. And the place where he was the one place I didn't look. And it was like I wasn't supposed to find him. It was just time to go.
There would be nothing you could have done for him.
I probably, you know, I'm a novice. I would have tried to pick him up. I'd have tried to pick that 800, 900 pound horse up myself. I'd have tried to lift him up on my back to get him out of that ice, and I wouldn't have been able to do it. I probably would have hurt myself. But that's the dedication I had to that horse that I'd never, maybe I hadn't experienced that kind of thing. You get it with dogs some,
It's a lot different.
but it's a lot different.
Yeah.
So I really benefited from being around the horses there at their end time.
Mm-hmm.
And when people would say, why do you have horses? Well, they're here for the last few years. But then that means you're going to see them when they pass. And then what do you do with an 800 pound animal when it's gone? You know, you have to be able to take care of that problem too. And we did with Grace and with learning.
Yeah, I remember telling people that I was going to get a horse after working with Pam for a while, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to go out and buy a 3-year-old horse, okay? I'm going to try to find a rescue animal. I'm not going to just go get, you know, a horse that I'm going to have to take care of for 30 years." But you know, we gave him a good place to be the last years of his life. Got the flies off his poor little feet. He was all festery on his feet from fly bites that they couldn't keep under control. Got him all squared away from that, and he just turned into a little jokester. He was a good boy.
He was a good boy.
It really was.
Good boy.
Mm-hmm. Jet was good too.
I didn't get a chance to meet Jet. I don't think.
Jet was
I saw pictures, but
Yeah.
I thank you so much for sharing you guys' stories. This has been wonderful to reconnect and hear them and reminisce.
I'm glad he came. He wasn't sure if he wanted to come out, and I'm like, I think I need a driver because stress will set me off.
Oh,
I'll be okay. Well, there's good stress and good stress and bad stress and bad stress. You know, it's all just the act of the cognitive act, and the speaking part of it is a little more stressful than before when I was perfectly vital and healthy. You know, I used to be able to say my health was excellent. Now I say it's good. We're very good.
I do appreciate you taking the time and
Oh, I'm
being
so glad to be out here.
willing to share.
I'm so glad to be out here.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we've met and that we've had this connection. We still see each other on Facebook, and it's amazing.
And I'm glad that you were able to tap into the healing power of horses.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna cry. And that you were, and that they were there for you.
Yeah. I remember you sharing your story with me about being in the arena and asking for water, and some rain fell.
That's for another day. I forgot about that story. I was like, oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll have that conversation later. Do you have anything to add?
I do not. I think it was, yes, tough and beautiful, and the whole thing all wrapped in one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now that you have seen Connie's story, we want you to know that there is hope and that there is help. And I think it's important that we talk about some signs that you may see in a loved one that might signify that they might be having some suicidal thoughts. Oftentimes we'll see that people start talking about suicide more casually, or they have a loss of interest in things that they used to really love before. You also may see an increase in depression, a loss of energy, or you may even see that they're giving away prized possessions. These are just some of the symptoms and signs that you may see in adults, but you may also see some in youth that you know, love, and care for as well, which we'll have Corey talk about a little bit.
Thank you, Chaz, for introducing me. I will cover some warning signs for youth. So any parent or guardian out there, listening and watching this video, I think it's important to keep an eye on your kids to see if you see a loss of interest in hobbies. If they're in sports, that's a big one to watch. If they lose interest in that sport, that could be a warning sign. Seeing some signs of helplessness, excessive sleeping, anything out of the normal routine for your child, that is a little excessive. Also looking for maybe some increased anger or frustration that is continuous daily. It's important to notice for your youth for signs of suicidal ideation. And it's also important for teachers and parents and guardians out there to keep an eye on bullying in the schools. If a kid comes to you and mentions something about bullying, it could be a warning sign for your child. So I encourage to listen and support them when they bring that up.
Thank you, Corey. And what we all here really want you to know is that there is hope and that there is help. And if you know a loved one or have a family member or a friend that might be struggling with thoughts of suicide or thoughts to end their life, that they can always reach out to 988, which is the suicide hotline. Or if they feel more comfortable texting someone, they can text the number 4-HOPE to 741-741. Again, those numbers are 988, which is the National Suicide Hotline, or they can text the number 4-HOPE to 741-741. We all became mental health professionals because your life is worth our time.
Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your knowledge and your wisdom on this very important topic. We really appreciate your time.
Of course.
Yes.
Very much so.
Of course.
And that is a national number, no matter where anyone is living, correct?
That is a national number, no matter where anyone is living. And it's also geolocated, so it will go to centers that are closest to you and closest to your communities.
Wonderful. That's good information to know. Thank you very much. Be looking for some more videos that we will be showcasing stories of the mental health awareness, because it is important and we need to talk about it. So, thank you and have a good evening.
Have a good evening. Thanks.
Thanks.